Broadcasting from an undisclosed location under a farm pond somewhere in the Midwest. Your host is Jim Crowley. This is Slickfish Radio. And just like that, we are back. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Slickfish Radio. I got a whole bunch of new buttons here, so I'm just clicking on stuff. Who knows what's going to happen? Anyway, hey, thanks for y'all being here. Chime in, let us know where you are at. Great guest tonight. I always look forward to talking to him. BASS elite angler Bernie Schultz is going to join us in just a little bit. He's in a lot warmer part of the country than we are right now. Man, it got to do a little ice fishing. Then it got really warm. Now it's getting really cold again. It's been kind of crazy. Matter of fact, I've been drinking coffee to keep warm. And hey, I just want to tell people who are chiming in now, I want to tell you thanks. Just finished up with the All Canada seminar series of shows. That went to Milwaukee. Then we went to Green Bay and we went to Chicago. Thank you, everybody who came out there. That was crazy good time. I think we broke an attendance record in Green Bay. And it was so much fun to see all of you and sit and talk fishing and just had a lot of fun. It was awesome. Finished up this past weekend in Chicago, and it was great. Always so much fun to see all the lodge owners. But man, the crowd really turned out. Just a whole different attitude here lately, and people are smiling, laughing, having a good time. So thank you all so much for being there. I want to thank our friends over at Lure Parts Online. Man, we've had a bunch of new things coming out lately, and there's more coming. You'll see some more videos coming out. Our friends over at Cast King always have some great stuff from Cast King, and I think this year they're slated for something like 70 new products. It's just mind blowing, just crazy. So looking forward to that. Our friends over at Mud Hall, still my rod series kit, the Jim Crowley Signature Series rod kits are still number one. I have all of you to thank for that. Thanks a lot. There's some stiff competition in that, and I'm glad you guys are buying them and building with them, having a great time with it. Jim Colba just hopped in. Hey Jim, how you doing? Glad to have you here. Our friends over at Wired to Fish Coffee, hey, we've been giving out discount codes for them as well. They are now offering 5 and 10 pound bags of coffee, and I think you can do a pre-order now for their new decaf. So we'll give you a discount code for them as well at the end of the show. Our friends over at Dakota Lithium Batteries, and of course, our friends over at Shields. Just a great bunch of people that help us bring this show to you. But as I always tell you, you know what? We wouldn't have this show if it wasn't for all of you. And I thank you so much. A bunch more of you are chiming in now. Just let us know where you're at. With that being said, I'm going to bring in the guy from a lot warmer state than I'm in right now. Bernie Schultz, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, the lighting came out all right. There you go.
Yeah, I was kind of looked like a cave earlier. Sorry.
Well, hey, that's okay. But saw you did a little saltwater fishing too, and that's one great thing about Florida is there's always something intercoastal or out in the big water. What have you been chasing lately?
Actually, I just did a filming project with Rob Fordyce. He's the host of the Sea Hunter on Outdoor
Oh
Channel.
yeah, great show.
And yeah, Rob's a longtime friend. We had a great 3 days of filming. We got a break in the weather. We were supposed to actually film the week before, and that's when all the snow flurries came through Florida. But we postponed that and had it this past week. And we were blessed with really good weather and a lot of great fishing.
What were you guys chasing for that episode? And will it air next year? Is that when it's going
No,
to
it'll
air?
air this year,
Good,
actually.
good.
Yeah, they're already editing. We caught redfish, big trout, and a couple of other fish thrown in there, sharks, and
Always
some
fun.
surprise fish. But yeah, it was. The Keys were subjected to that same series of cold fronts, and the water temperature was really, really pretty chilly down there. So we didn't really get to do any bone fishing or permit fishing. Was hoping to get that in, but it was still a good show and a lot of fish caught and super shallow, which a lot of it was sight fishing, and I really enjoy that. They're a good adversary, target fish. They're a lot of fun, challenging, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's for sure. Years ago, I got to go catch some snook with when Doug Hannon was alive, and I got to
Yeah.
fish with Doug and caught my biggest snook there, and that was the first time I ever caught a snook over 30 inches, and that's just a whole different breed of fish, man. And I've seen some
Yeah.
of the guys get them, 20 pounds, and that's just crazy. Those are just awesome. They'll make you work for it.
Oh yeah. it's like a bass on steroids. They eat a lot of the same lures, the same type of general strategies work for them. Jerk baits, even crank. They'll eat a crankbait, believe it or not. But a lot of jerk bait fishing, a lot of minnow tip jigs and stuff. Top waters, they love top waters, and the battle's always exciting. They're a really good game fish.
Do you have, and I know you like collecting a lot of old lures and the history of the sport, and I think we have the same person in common. I think we've talked about me once before, but Dan Basor.
Yeah,
Uh,
Dan's a historian. Yeah,
yeah, and I'll tell you what, I don't know, it's probably been 25 years ago that I met Dan, and when I was seeing him at shows a whole lot, it was very interesting always to stop into the booth and see even some of his old tournament jerseys from or the vest back in the day, when everybody first started
yeah.
doing that, and he always had some great stories about people, and then seeing some of those lures, and I know you really get into that too. How did you start that? I've always been fascinated by that, to start a collection of something like that. Was that just something you started younger and then well, I guess what I'm asking is, was it just because your curiosity of the history of the sport?
Not so much. It's more curiosity about fish and fishing. My grandfather was kind of my start. My mom and my grandfather started me fishing, and my grandmother was a antique dealer.
Ah.
So, kind of, I guess, going to estate sales and flea markets and rummage sales, whatever, with her and my mom. We'd all go together. I was kind of the gopher. I'd get the stuff they bought and take it back to the car. And she always looked out for me on antique, or they weren't antique to me at the time. It was just fishing lures. And I'm getting up there in years now, so a lot of them are antique. But that's where it started, basically. It just kind of, the passion grew from there. I'm involved with multiple collecting clubs now, the Old Reel Collectors Association, or ORCA as they're known as, the National Fishing Lure Collectors Club, and the Florida Antique Tackle Collectors. And these are all great organizations. They host shows around the country. The public's welcome to come. You can bring your tackle and get a free appraisal. Um, you can learn a lot about the history of the sport just by attending one of those shows, or going on some of their forums online, whether it's Facebook or various websites and chat boards.
Now, is it just freshwater that you collect, or do you go into some of the saltwater stuff too?
Both, both. I'm in Florida, so a lot of my
Yeah.
collection's based on Florida makers, and a lot of those guys to survive had to dip into both markets. There's a lot of overlap, and the big four, Head Creek Chub, South Bend, and whoever I'm missing, uh, can't think of it, Shakespeare. All of them dabbled in both. I would say the strength of their market was probably bass and pike, but they definitely addressed the saltwater market and made lures for those species of game fish.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that is no doubt the history of our sport. And you can go back forever and ever to go look at that stuff. Are there certain
Yeah.
things that you really like to collect?
Florida lures, like I just mentioned,
Yep.
and earlier the better, Jim. I mean, I like it all. You can't collect it all, but I definitely have a passion for Florida lures and really early small companies. We call them miscellaneous companies just because they had maybe one or two entries and they
Mhm.
kind of disappeared. They're pretty obscure small makers. Um, I have lures that go back to early 1900s, and to me, those are the most intriguing.
Oh, for sure. Just to see, excuse me, to see how people would catch fish way back in the day like that on just on simple things, and then just to see how elaborate our lures have gotten over the years. And it's pretty cool when you collect those because I'm sure you can see the changes as they start to occur.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. There's not a lot of new ideas in fishing. I mean, I have a reel that was made in 1900 it's called the anti-backlash reel. They were trying to address that issue way back in the day. And I could tell you this also. I have a hollow-bodied frog that was made in 1895, and it
Oh my goodness.
looks very similar to a real frog. Has the same principle. It's hollow-bodied rubber with tandem hooks, and when a fish strikes, the rubber compresses and the hooks are exposed. And right on the package, it says to release the water, press on the frog. So not a lot's changed in some areas. It's pretty interesting how old ideas are still relevant today, but with some revision. New materials
Sure.
and kind of evolve to a better product, I guess.
Well, just what we look what we've seen over rods, in the last 20
Yeah,
years. Probably 25 years ago, you went from boron type materials and then the high-end graphites, even a high-end glass to a certain extent, making things so much more better, so much
yeah,
lighter and stronger. Um, One of my favorite things over the last several years has been the adding of compressed carbon fiber reel seats to for the builder. It's just amazing that the feel that you went from that to what we had even 25 years ago.
yeah.
That material is just absolutely incredible how they've utilized it and used it toward fishing. What's been one of your favorite things that you've seen as far as rods, reels? Because I know you work really heavy with Shimano, so you guys are on the cutting edge of stuff. What have you seen?
I do. Yeah, Shimano's always up in the bar, raising the bar. Their gearing is superior to anything out there. That's really where they made their hay. They primarily were in bicycles, and then they
Right.
got
Yep.
into the fishing market because their gears were so superior. They're always refining their reels. What were just the most superior components on a reel just less than 5 or 10 years ago are now kind of trickled down to the entry level reels. So a guy can buy a reel today that was probably a premier reel 10 years ago and be much more affordable. He's got all the components, all the bells and whistles. And Shimano's done a really good job of targeting different price points for beginners all the way to the advanced. Um, they make a great product, and as you know, I'm with Fuji Components
Oh, yeah.
also.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's been exciting to watch the new guide uh, developments. Everything's lighter, stronger, more heat resistant. Anti friction, anti corrosion. There's just been a lot of upgrades in materials over the years, and we're the benefit of it. The guys that are out there every day are really getting to not only use the stuff but test and perfect it.
I think it's pretty. I mean, I've always thought that stuff is cool. When I first got into the industry, I don't know even how this happened, but I became a geek when it came to tackle. It's rods and lures and everything, always trying to tweak stuff to make it better. And when I hear, hey, there's a new blank coming out or there's a new material, I'm like, I've got to see this. I've got to try this. I think for over the last decade now, I've built my own rods, and I think I've built three separate bladed jig rods because of new materials that came out that I wanted to try. Now, I
Sure.
don't I don't think that stuff ever goes away. I think we still like the, well, how is this going to feel, or how am I going to do that? And I bet when you do this stuff with Shimano, you've got to be excited every year to see what comes out and how it's going to fit into what you're doing, both fresh and saltwater, right?
Absolutely. And about the time you think they've done it all, plateaued, they find something else, a new material or a way to process the production, make it more streamlined, make it more efficient, make the rods perform differently. And you know, they've got it down to such a science now. It's just subtle differences from one action to the next or one power to the next. And there's some overlap there. And it comes down to in a lot of cases, personal preference, what your physique is, what you
Yep.
know, your preferences on the water and under different elements, different conditions. There's a lot of variables, and they work all that into the design of their products these days. It's amazing. Each year at ICAST, there's always something new and
Oh yeah.
improved every year.
Yeah, and sometimes by the time we leave ICAST, they're talking about things and like, we're going to bring this out in 3 months. Doesn't matter the company. It's
Yeah,
like they've always got something. I mean, if we just look at the jump in electronics in since even maybe 2014, 15,
yeah,
it's gotten crazy. It's the electronics have changed.
yeah.
I mean, you started when there was paper graphs. I was coming in at the end of paper graphs, and I remember when flashers were a big deal.
I started with flashers actually.
Okay.
It was amazing what we could achieve with a flasher. As rudimentary and as crude as that technology was, it really helped us catch fish.
Yeah.
And then paper graphs came, and
Okay.
it's funny. I did an article not long ago about the development of along the way how electronics have evolved. And at each stage, when there was kind of a monumental introduction, like the paper graph, it was controversial, just like LiveScope or
Yeah.
forward-facing sonar is today. When side scan came, that was guys were using side scan. Oh my
Right.
God,
Yeah.
that's not fair. So it's been kind of humorous if you look back over time and watch these developments. Is the reaction was the same, knee
Yep.
jerk. I'm with Garmin. I'm a Garmin guy, and I really like the technology. It's amazing what you can do.
Cool.
It's taught me a lot. You know, when I was old school, I am old school.
Yeah.
But when I started, it was about, learning patterns and seasonal movements, how fish relate to underwater structures and features, and the underwater highways that they supposedly used. And then Panoptics comes out, and I realized that a lot of that's out the window. The fish utilize most of the water column, and they're just randomly swimming about, some together, some by themselves. There's rogues, there's big schools. It's way more random than we used to think.
There's no doubt because I used to teach a class based off the old in fisherman system about,
Right.
how fish would get, to places. And then you talk to some of these younger guys who have so much more access to that information earlier than we ever did. And one of the
Yeah.
guys I was talking to was Drew Gill about it in quite depth because I figured that smallmouth being my favorite fish, I just figured, I always try to learn more about them. I just enjoy catching them. But I always figured out that they were the ones who are more pelagic. And he goes, honestly, he goes, in a lot of cases, he goes, largemouth are a little bit more pelagic, than smallmouth are. And he went through a list of things like this. And just like you were saying, all those things that we thought that we knew or that we were right, but we weren't 100% right. There's a lot more going there, and once these optics came up, they literally showed us they're kind of remaking us, not kind of, they are. They're making us rethink about fish movement, aren't they?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's way more random than I used to believe. Um, they do use underwater features,
Hmm.
but they don't rely on them near as much as it's all about the bait. I mean, wherever the bait is, I mean, fish have to feed. And if it means swimming, 10 feet below the surface over 40 foot of water, if that's where they're going to find food, that's what they're going to do. If the bait fish are around structure on the bottom or near the bottom, that's where they're going to be also. So it's just about staying up with the forage, and you'll find the fish. And Panoptics and live scope, that's basically teaching people that.
And just even going back as far as just for their 2D sonar, I mean, we were fishing crappies 30 foot of water this year on Lake of the Woods, and you can see the little bait ball right,
Right.
above them, and the crappies between the bottom. There's maybe this much room between the bottom, but they were still directly below those bait fish. And I'm like, man, if I had Mega Live or if I had Panoptics now just to see, I would really like to see how those fish are moving, in below those. I've seen it before where you got a school of bait fish, and I know you've seen this a lot more than I have, but how smallmouth have a tendency to really dart in to those
Yeah.
balls of bait and out. And that's got to be pretty cool. The only bad part of that is sometimes they don't want nothing to do with whatever you're throwing at them, right?
Yeah. And in the old days with the electronics, we called it streaking, when the fish would streak through a school of bait, whether it was shad, whatever it was. And now you see them in real time, and it's an individual body moving, in an aggressive manner into the school, that it's whatever school it's attacking. So technology just keeps improving, and the skill level keeps going up. These young guys are so well versed when they come in now. It's I'll tell you, it's tough. I've made money with live scope, mostly with smallmouth, but I've got to get better at it. It's that, or I'll be watching from the sidelines.
Um, have you now what's one of the most interesting things, because I've always known you to be the guy that whatever comes out, you're going to try to learn it the best you can just to improve your skill. And what has been one of the things that you've taken away from, and obviously you're accomplishing something because you're winning some money against some of those guys doing that, but what was one of the biggest things you thought maybe that surprised you when you went, man, I didn't now I can incorporate this going forward?
What shocked me first was the number of fish that you see and how many respond to your bait initially. You're not going to catch them all. In fact, you're not going to catch a large percentage of them. And that was eye opening, just seeing the numbers of fish. If you're on a good part of the lake or reservoir or river, whatever you're fishing, if you're in a good section and there's a lot of activity, a lot of bait, and the right kind of features or structures that the fish can relate to, um, whether they're ambushing from cover or if they're free swimming after the bait, it's just the amount of life that's below the boat is astounding. And the other thing that I learned was, this is the disheartening part, is so many fish refuse the bait. No matter how well you present it, you're going to get a lot of refusals. And that, it's tough to get around that. You want every one of them to bite, especially if they pursue the bait. You
Sure.
think, yeah, it's any second now. It's kind of like having a fish, boil behind a buzz bait or something like that. It's like, what did I do wrong? And it's a learning process.
One of the things that I've always told people is, before they change colors, like if a fish misses a bait, check your depth and retrieve speed before, you're just freaking out about having to change colors. Now, I bet with live scope, you've probably seen that. You have seen that really close up now, and where you would have never even known that fish was following the bait. Is
Yeah.
there what is like one of your favorite lures when you know when you're like, okay, I'm probably going to be in live scope mode for this tournament? What are a couple of the baits that you use that you can really see how those fish are going to react, or at least get an idea what they're doing?
Yeah. Well, the two most obvious are a jerk bait
Yep.
or a minnow tip jig. I mean, that's kind of, small swim bait of some kind. That's kind of the go-to for most guys,
Hmm.
and I'm no different. What I like about a jerk bait is you can, as long as the fish engages far enough from the boat, you can keep teasing him to try and figure out what movement or lack of movement is going to trigger the strike. Um, all too often, that comes at the end of the cast where you're about to pull the bait out of the water, and the fish makes the boat, and then it's over. But if you can get the fish to engage far enough out there where you can, figure out what he's doing, you can apply that. It's in a sense, it's pattern fishing.
Hmm.
You're figuring out what movements are going to trigger the strike, and it doesn't always work fish to fish, but a lot of times it does. Um, I've had some hard lessons the last couple of years in presentation. One example is when we were at Smith Lake, I was not taking the bait away from the spots. It was a spot tournament all the way, and the fish were suspended out over super deep water, chasing schools near the surface. And I was letting my bait get down into the level that the spots were, kind of fishing like I would a smallmouth or a largemouth. And the whole key there was to take it away from once they made the bait and recognized the lure and showed any kind of pursuit. You had to kind of take it away from them to get them to really charge and eat the bait. I never figured that out, so I didn't do very well in the tournament. And I've had some. Another one was watching Trey McKinney put on a clinic at Lake Fork last year. I had a front row seat, and it was painful. Trust me. I mean, he really is dialed in on what he's doing. Uh, hard lessons to learn, but that's part of the process.
You'd made a comment. I'm going to go back a little bit. You made a comment about sometimes it's the action of the lure or inaction of the lure. And back ago, you and I were working for one of the same companies for Rapala, and Mark Fisher told me that a long time ago. He goes, if people would realize that it's not always the action of the lure that causes the fish to strike, it's the absence of motion.
Absolutely true for
And,
top waters.
and when he told me that, I don't even know how long ago that was. It literally changed the way that I fish lures, and in my opinion, made a big difference in my fishing. And I'm betting you're seeing that a lot now, just like you had said about, not taking a bait away from them. But sometimes, especially with smallmouth, they want that bait sitting, don't they? Depending on that really cold water, they can sit there and look at a bait for a while, can't they?
Absolutely, and it'll look like, and I've seen this more than a few times. New York and Detroit, any of the Great Lakes where you have the clarity, or even the Finger Lakes where you have the clarity, you'll have a fish track a bait, and it looks like he's trailing off, like he's losing interest.
Yeah.
And if you'll just leave that bait there, a lot of times they'll do a 180 and come back and crush it, and it's never moved. If you keep moving it, a lot of times you discourage the fish. It can go the other way 180 degrees though. Sometimes you can't give it enough movement. So it's a matter of process of elimination, just playing with each fish and trying to figure out what's going to trigger that fish. But don't be afraid to pause a lure. That's the message here.
Yep.
Same with topwaters, and I learned that early in my career, Jim. Being in Florida, Florida strain largemouth like to feed up, but they are very cautious and very slow to take a lure, um, even under ideal conditions. And a lot of times, the best days I've had on the water with topwaters was using pausing the bait, just give it some initial action, get the fish to respond to it, and then just letting it sit.
Yeah, it's amazing that sometimes, not doing anything is actually the one that is going to cause the biggest strike or to make that fish commit.
That's right.
You know, and,
100%.
no, I think that's really, really cool. I think what we're gonna do, Let me get to this here. We're going to take a little bit of a break, about 2.5 minutes. We come back. We'll talk about what your schedule looks like for the elites for this year.
Sounds good.
We'll be back right after this with Bernie Schultz.
Located in Springfield, Illinois' largest selection of sports and sportswear, hunting, fishing, specialty shops and services, a 65-foot Ferris wheel, 16,000-gallon saltwater aquarium, and industry-leading knowledgeable employees. You don't take chances at Shields, ever.
At Lure Parts Online, we have everything you need to make your own lures, tie your own flies, pour soft plastics, and more. Easy ordering ensures you get your products quickly. You can build all you need to create your own angling success at Lure Parts Online. Cast King, fueled by innovation through novel concepts and ingenious designs, markets directly to consumers with unprecedented cost-effective e-commerce practices, cutting costs by 30% more on average. Cast King empowers anglers of all skill levels to achieve things never thought possible. Find out more at castking.com. Mudhole is your number one source for custom fishing rods. Mudhole is the world's largest supplier of rod building supplies, information, education, and instruction. The best components and brands you trust, including MHX, CRB, American Tackle, Pro Products, Fuji, AFCO, and more. It's easy to build your own fishing rods at mudhole.com. With 25% of net profits donated to faith-based and clean water initiatives, Wire to Fish Coffee was founded by folks who love Jesus, a good day of fishing, and great coffee. With every bag of Wire to Fish coffee, you support clean water, the sport of fishing, and helping others with a better quality of life. Find out more, wiretofishcoffee.com. Believing quality is measured by lifespan, harnessing their unique chemistry, engineering, and know-how. Dakota Lithium lasts 4 times longer, powering your passions and backing it up with an 11-year warranty. Find out more at dakotalithium.com.
Hi, this is Jim Crowley. Make sure to catch my other show, Jim Crowley Outdoors, where we travel across North America pursuing anything that swims. We always detail our equipment and techniques and more, all in the pursuit of helping you to become a better angler. Jim Crowley Outdoors can be seen on Wire to Fish TV Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sling, Flex, Sports Tribal, Distro TV, Local Now, and more streaming stations.
And we are back with BASS Elite Pro Bernie Schultz. Bernie, thanks again for joining us tonight, man.
Glad to be here.
Just got a question here from William Gibson. He said, how do you feel about the return of enhancement gels? I'm guessing he's talking about the stuff for forward-facing sonar. Have you ever used those?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I
Good
haven't
comment
either.
there.
Yeah, I haven't used those either. So, William, I guess we feel fine about it. I don't know. So I don't know what else to tell you. But you got an interesting schedule coming up this year. Two of the tournaments start right in Florida there, right there
Yeah.
with you. And they made some rule changes last year because so many of the guys, or not so many of them, but they said a good number of the guys had up to 5 transducers on their boat. And sometimes 4 or 5 screens on the boat, and upwards around $20,000 electronics, and they kind of streamlined that. And I liked how BAS has said that. They said that they tried to do everything just for the enhancement of the sport. And have you heard a lot of kickback from that? Are guys happy that way, or is it still 50-50?
Probably 50-50. I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to make a difference. As long as there's one transducer that they can scan and
Yeah.
and see in real time, see fish in real time, they're going to be fine. The guys that really rely on it. And the guys that don't like it, they're probably not happy with the ruling. It's not enough,
Mhm.
control for them. So I don't see it being any kind of a big change.
Yeah, and so where they start out though, they're starting on the St. John's now. That St. John's and Okeechobee, and you like both those fisheries. And what are you thinking? How's that first tournament? You're thinking that's going to be a pre-spawn tournament there?
I think it'll be if we continue with this warming trend that we've had. I mean, it's really warm this week. We've been in the 80s
Oh,
and
wow.
bluebird skies, lots of sun rays getting penetration. Over in all the lakes in the area, rivers and lakes both. I anticipate it being pre full on spawn and maybe even a little bit of post spawn because the full moon is right before our tournament. So a lot of the females may be off the beds by the time the competition starts. Um, there was a curve thrown at us this year, and it was really disappointing. The the people that control Rodman Reservoir, which is it's an adjoining waterway to the St. John's. It's a great watershed. It's a small reservoir, just littered with bass, and it's one of the few places connecting to the St. John's that has a lot of grass.
Mhm.
And they do these periodic drawdowns, and they say it's part of maintaining the quality of the water, the substrate, making sure the bottom stays firm, controlling vegetation, which is kind of ironic because we need the vegetation. The St. John's has been depleted in recent years because of hurricanes, high water, manatee they consume so much grass, turtles also. So anyway, they were saying that it's going to be drawn down. Well, when they do that, they restrict the numbers of fish that you can. Well, they restrict it completely. You're not allowed to take fish during the drawdown, and so consequently, you can't catch fish and take them back through the lock and weigh them in at some other destination. So they put it off limits. Well, then it turns out they're not going to draw it down. Well, Bass already called it off limits, and now that it's going to be full of water and productive, we can't fish it, and that's really disappointing. As far as Okeechobee, they're killing that lake. That lake is in really bad shape. It's sprayed continuously. The water quality is terrible. What used to be probably 70% of the lake was productive is reduced now to maybe 15, 20%.
Wow.
And now it's in a drawdown. It's not only going to be very difficult to get to some of the areas that are traditional, good hotspots. A lot of equipment's going to get torn up.
Yeah.
Yeah. My roommate Cliff Prince just fished a tournament there. He's not on the Elite Series this year. He's fishing another tour. He's fishing the Opens. He just had a tournament down there, and a lot of equipment was torn up, hitting bottom. And it'll be worse when we get there. I mean, we're 3 weeks out at least for that tournament, and they're going to continue to drop it. So I don't look forward to that event. It's what little bit of quality water, good water, fishable water, contestable water, I guess is the way to put it. It's going to be crowded. It's going to be really crowded. There's just so much of the lake is non-productive these days. It's really sad. It was one of the best watersheds in Florida.
And that's going to be hard on the fish too, as well as
it is
going elbow to elbow.
Yeah, last time we were there was enough water. I mean, it was crowded. I was leading the first day, and a lot of the field found me. I couldn't hide. The water was low enough when they ran by, they saw where I was fishing. So I had help the next couple of days. But, it's half of that now. We thought it was limited then, and it's going to be way worse this time, not only because there's fewer areas of clear water, but also because the water is going to be so much lower and unnavigable.
Now that next one, I'm just looking because I haven't heard of this place before. It's called the Pasquotank River in North.
Pasquotank, yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you fished that before?
Never have. No, I assume that it'll fish a lot like the tidal rivers in the Northeast, and I think it'll feel somewhat like what is that place we go? It's Winyah Bay.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, when it's north of Winyah Bay, and it's got a similar look to it, but I think it'll be a lot more productive. I think they had an MLF tournament there last year, and it was pretty productive from what I recall.
Now that's going to be mostly largemouth or some smallmouth in that too, or that's.
I got to believe it's be mostly largemouth.
Largemouth, yeah.
I've never been there, so I can't say. I would imagine you'd have to go pretty far up some of those streams to find the smallmouth.
And then Lake Fork, and then the Sabine River. Sabine River always seems like it's tough, but it's it can be challenging. But it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of big fish there. But Lake Fork I don't know, that could be a pretty decent tournament this year, couldn't it?
Yeah, they both could actually. I mean, there's a lot of fish at the Sabine River. It doesn't take a lot of weight. They're small fish on average, but a lot of fish get caught. I don't know what to expect from that. There are better places to be at that time of year. I'll say that, but it's on the schedule. It's going to be the same for everybody. So I'm just going to have to bear down. But Lake Fork, I've got a bone to pick with Lake Fork. It's really burned me the last few years, and it's my kind of fishing, and it's gotten so frustrating. It's come down to missed opportunities, lost fish, just mechanical issues. I've had a lot of setbacks this last couple of times we've been there.
Yeah, you got a score to settle on that one.
Yes, I do.
On that one, and the next one I saw on the schedule, it just reminded me of Jimmy Houston because it was Lake Ten Killer,
Yeah,
and I don't remember when was the last time or what. Yeah, when was the last time? I can't remember the last time BASS was there. I'm kind of interested to see that fishery and see how you guys do.
yeah, we went there. It was an alternative site because of COVID. We weren't allowed to fish. I can't even remember. I think it was a lake in Alabama we weren't allowed to go to. So bass, in short time and order, relocated to Tin Killer, and it was very productive. The lake had a lot of fish in it. Um, it's got smallmouth and largemouth. I think there might even be spots in it, but it's got a good population of smallmouth, and they were a factor in that event. I chose to fish for largemouth, and they were tough. I think they had to be 16 inches or something, and you catch a lot. Maybe it was 15 inches. I can't remember, but I was just shy on a lot of fish, which is usually the case when they have a high, you know, a length limit like that.
Hmm. And then the next one I saw, St. Clair's going to be good.
Yeah,
And then you're getting closer to my neck of the woods in La Crosse up there, and that
yeah,
that can be really good in the fall.
yeah.
That can be a lot of fun. So you're going to round out the season with a couple really really good places.
Yeah, I like the schedule overall. I think it's going to be a good, it's going to be different. There's enough diversity that each guy will have opportunities to use his strengths. Here and there, there'll be some times when it's more challenging for guys, but it's a really well balanced, diverse schedule, and I think it'll be good. I like my chances. You know, I got nothing to lose at this stage, so I'm
Go
just
out
good.
and have some fun and see what happens.
That's exactly right.
So what is coming up after that for you? Are there some I know you're writing a lot all the time and I always read all your articles. I really enjoy the heck out of those. What else is going on? Is there some more stuff coming? Or is there other companies or some companies that you're working with, maybe some stuff or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm winding down. It's no secret. I've been at this game a long time. I don't know if this will be my last year. It depends how this year goes, whether I'll fish another year on the elites. But I'm looking at some other things. My wife's got a project in mind, and and it's related to the sport.
All right.
Yeah, it's a good concept. She had the idea a long time ago, and she needs a little help getting that off the ground. So that's probably next for me when I do retire. We'll probably pursue that. She's got a lot left in the tank, and she wants to make something, make her name out there a little bit.
Sure. Hey, yeah, whenever you decide to have a retirement party, let me know.
Yeah, man,
So,
you're definitely invited, and hopefully I can go out on my terms. I'd like to go
yeah.
out with some with a bang, maybe. Who knows?
That'd
So
be awesome. So if people want to find out some more about what's going on, or just because I know you're writing for Bassmaster, what else are you doing?
yeah,
What else?
I write for Bassmaster. I write for Inside Line, which is GSM owns Yamamoto now. It's part of their platform.
Oh, cool.
I write a column for them. That's basically a recap of each of my Elite Series experiences. I also write for Just Fishing, which is Ontario. It's a major publication up there,
Yep.
Jim McLaughlin's publication.
Oh, okay.
And believe it or not, I'm going to start a series on antique tackle with Wire to Fish.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's
Awesome.
coming up. So people can find me on bassmaster.com. I have a column there monthly. There's links to my columns on my website. They can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Bernie Schultz Fishing.
That's awesome, dude. I'm looking forward to reading that stuff with Wire to Fish. You're going to be working with Todd Hamill and Terry probably, and that crazy crowd
Yeah,
over there.
great group.
Yeah, that's a great group. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Well, buddy, thanks so much for coming
Yeah,
on
man.
again. I always enjoy having you on. You're always so personable and always so easy to get a hold of. So I sure thank you for that. And as always, I'll be cheering for you. And I hope I just hope you have a fantastic year. I just do.
I appreciate that. I do. got a lot of people pulling for me. I'd like to reward that loyalty. It's been a long time since I've really been in a position to do a whole lot, and who knows, maybe it'll happen this year.
And Rodney Hager just said, wanted to wish Bernie good luck on the tournament trail. Well, Rodney, thanks for that's it. Thanks for saying that. So we'll do that. But hey, buddy, I'll let you go. And thanks again. And I'm guessing you're going to be at ICAST this year, right?
Yeah, I'll be at ICAST. I'll be at the Classic, working for sponsors at their booths, and invite everybody to come out and see me.
Yeah. If I go to the Classic with somebody, I'll run over and see you. But I'm sure we always run into each other at ICAST. But
Uh,
go knock, no, go whack a couple sacks well before that. And I hope you do great, my friend.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for everybody listening.
God bless you, buddy. See you.
You too.
Yeah, always one of my favorite guys in the industry, has been for a long, long time. And Bernie is just a great, great guy. Want to thank our friends over at Lure Parts Online, also at Cast King, Mudhole, Wired to Fish TV, Dakota Lithium, and Shields. Always great. But I think I want to give you guys some discount code tonight. How about that? All right. So we'll go on with Lure Parts right here. So if you decide to get anything from Lure Parts, including our brand new Bass Academy plastics, go to Lure Parts Online. Just type in Bass Academy, and you'll see all the new stuff, everything, and there is a bunch, and there's a bunch more coming. Well, you can put in this code right here, JC Outdoors 10, and you'll get 10% off. Now, also realize that if you go to our TikTok and our YouTube pages, there are separate discount codes there. Hint, hint, I'm giving you a good way to save some money, folks, okay? So you follow Lure Parts Online on those pages, and you'll get different discount codes. Our friends over at Casking, this is the one that everybody loves using, right? This is the one you save 20% off. Caskin's got a lot of very cool stuff coming out. I showed some of the stuff at the shows this year. You guys are going crazy over the new tackle bags, new tackle bags new tackle bags I had there, as well as that Royal Legend Pro. Some of you really enjoyed that little Kestrel spinning reel. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Anything you want at Casking, use that code JC52AFF, and that is 20% off. Use it as much as you want and give it to whoever you want. Make sure you give it to some high school and college anglers too. All right. I love those kids having money off. We don't want them being broke fishing. We just want them fishing. And Casking is great at helping for that. Also, our friends over at Wired to Fish Coffee. All right. Several of you said you tried it at the shows. You really, really liked it. Now you can pre-order a new decaf. They also have it available in 5 and 10 pound bags. It is the official coffee of Slickfish Radio and myself, because if you don't know, I need caffeine. Like, you're all surprised about that, right? So go to Wired to Fish Coffee and you get 15% off with that code right there. Our friend over at Dakota Lithium Batteries, put in that code SlickFish10, and that will save you some money over at Dakota Lithium as well. Got a couple more people. Rodney Hager said, great show as always, Jim. Well, Rodney, thank you. Very glad to have you there. And Dave, hey, Dave, yeah, thanks, Jim and Bernie. Good show. Thank you guys very much. Like I said, just make sure you follow us on the social media. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And also, some of you may know this, some of you may not. Last thing to tell you, I did a short series for Wired to Fish this winter called The Angler's Workshop. And I think it's 4 episodes, and it's rod building and some lure building. That's all we did on it. So if you go to Wired to Fish TV, and we showed you where you can find that, look up the Angler's Workshop. It's got some really good detailed stuff on lure building and rod building. So hopefully you'll see that and you will enjoy it. As always, thank you so much. I want to thank our sponsors again: Lure Parts Online, Cast King, Mudhole, Wired to Fish TV, Dakota Lithium, and Shields. And as always, wouldn't have a show if it wasn't for all of you. And thank you so much for coming to see me at the shows. Hopefully a lot more coming up now between February and March where I'll get to run into you. Otherwise than that, God bless you all. Thank you so very much. Have a great rest of the week.